Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm Rafael Avila. I'm your Vice President of Technology Services. Can you hear me? Okay, thanks. We have a new recruit in the booth, Wanda, recording the presentation today. So just checking. So I'll be hosting today. Welcome, everyone, to town meeting. And I'd like to start by asking Maria LaSala to come on up and open our meeting.
Good morning, friends. I'm Maria LaSala, the Spiritual Care Coordinator here at Whitney Center, and it is good to be with you today. I'd like to begin our November meeting by taking a moment to acknowledge the land on which we dwell and the indigenous people who first knew this as home. We stand on the land of the Quinnipiac and other Algonquin-speaking peoples who have stewarded through generations the lands and waterways of what we now know as the state of Connecticut. That is worth saying as we approach the season of Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving offers us a chance to remember our past, the good things that have come our way, and the more challenging events that have shaped us as a people. The author Anne Lamott writes of the natural movement of gratitude from our hearts to our actions. Gratitude begins in our hearts and then dovetails into behavior, she writes. I think many of us know that to be true. All day, every day, we breathe in gratitude, and then we breathe out our thanks. These past few days at Whitney Center have offered us a few examples of living gratefully. On Friday, this room was full as we came together to honor the veterans in our midst. The program, so lovingly prepared by Jim Hutton, found many of us in tears as we heard again stories of courage and bravery and of peacemaking. I heard a few of you tell me that your hearts were moved that afternoon, perhaps recognizing that wars in the Middle East and around the world continue, and the news of so many innocent lives lost feels too familiar to many. And just this past Monday, again in this space, we listened to 8 residents share a bit of their stories and of the gifts that they might offer as leaders on the Residents' Council. Many spoke of the leadership skills they have developed over the years, acknowledging that now in retirement, these past experiences might be just what Whitney Center needs in these times. When we are moved by listening to others share their life stories, we can't help but feel gratitude and become aware again of the blessings of our lives. And the best response to that is to say thanks. How can something so simple as saying thanks be so profound? Because for the most part, most people won't notice our epiphany moments, but we will, and that makes all the difference. It can change our whole day, which could be a way to change our whole life. There really is only today, the present, and it is a gift, a present for others, and surely even for us. So maybe one person will notice our generosity, our newfound awareness, our hidden talents, and will be touched, lifted, encouraged, In other words, slightly changed for the better. And later, we'll do something kind or generous for a stranger. And then maybe, just maybe, this will become the pattern for everyone, and the world will be changed for the good. In this season of Thanksgiving, I hope you will take time to look back over the years of your own life, to acknowledge the hard times and the good ones, the memories that hold you fast and that sustain you. I know holidays can often bring sadness, especially for those who know grief at the loss of loved ones. Today, as I do every month, I invite you to remember with me 2 residents from our Meadow Mills campus who passed away, John Kane and Mary Jane Murray. And from our own Whitney Center community, we pause and remember Howard Laniato. You might recall that Mr. Laniato was honored at last Friday's Veterans Day program. I can see him still sitting in the front row, waving his hat after his name had been called and his story shared. Let us pause and give thanks for his life. Friends, weeping may linger, but joy does come. And I encourage you to dare to pause and give thanks for today, for your courage and resilience, for the joy you know in things great and in things small. Gratefulness is a moment-to-moment practice, remembering that life is precious and every day is a gift. Friends, I wish you a joyous Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. You know, your words always have a way to sort of reground me. So I thank you, and there's just so much to be thankful for. So thanks for reminding us. So before we move into our various updates and remarks, I'd like to extend a special welcome to our newest residents, Mr. and Mrs. Margie and Alan Starn-Sear, apartment 524, Mr. and Mrs. Pat and Baxter Walsh in apartment 336, and Mrs. Sandra Whiteley, apartment 221. We are glad that you are here. I'd like to invite Lynn Hawkins at this time, the president of our resident council, for some remarks. Lynn?
Since you have definitely heard enough from me, those of you who frequent the CAC this week, I have only one remark, and that is to urge you to vote for members of the Residents' Council. This is election season. The ballots may already be in your boxes, but definitely by the end of the week, that's tomorrow, and are due back in the boxes at the north or south desk, north and south desk, for you to submit them by November 30th. And the results will be announced on December 11th, which is the Residents Association annual meeting. So that was a lot of words for one remark. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. So let's get right into our department updates. I'd like to invite Dan Zula, our Director of Business Operations, or Business, what is it?
Building operations.
Building Operations and Safety. Tongue twister.
How long's he been here? Morning, everybody. I want to start today's conversation with getting back to our fire procedures and our fire planning. I know I've been talking about this a couple months now. We are prepared to provide you all with some information now. We have finished putting everything together. We've met with members of the Residents' Council. We've had focus groups. We have had employee groups. Suzanne has spent a lot of time putting this package of everything together. And in the next couple weeks, we're going to start delivering everything to your apartment. We have these that are laminated. These are going to go on the back of your door. You all should have something currently on the back of your door. Through this process, we realized that that information was old. It was outdated, and it was kind of inconsistent with what we want to do moving forward. We're going to replace them. We were also told that it needs to be bigger, so we made it a little bit larger for everybody to read. It still fits in the same place of your door, and we will be delivering these packets as well that answer many of the questions that have come up in the last couple months in reference to what do I do during a fire? What do I do during a fire alarm? What can I expect from staff? Where do I go? Many, many things are answered in here, and of course, we're always available for questions afterward, but please, anticipate these coming in the next couple weeks. We've also spoken with the fire marshal, and we are going to be doing a tabletop exercise with him before the end of the year to discuss our specific campus and have him guide us on what, the best planning would be in the event of an actual fire. Once we've gone through that, we are going to bring that to the community in 2024 and probably do a drill with his assistance, but we want to do a tabletop exercise with him first, make sure that we're all on the same page and we have everything organized. So, please look forward to that. This whole situation that happened a couple months ago, when we investigated it, we did find some damaged smoke heads, some wiring, that needed to be replaced, and we have done all that. We have replaced those things. So we hope that also makes the system better, but the information is what was important to get out, and that's something that we were missing. So I want to move into the south building elevators. Do you want me to talk about that? I could sit back down. So we have obviously now repaired this second issue that has happened. There's been two issues in the last 4 weeks, let's call it. This particular issue was a brake switch, and the switch itself didn't have an issue when they were here repairing that battery issue. It just happened in between then and now, but it had a similar situation with the first one of they didn't have the part. And that is our concern, and that's something that we're bringing to Schindler moving forward is what can we do to minimize the downtime when these types of things happen? We want a stock of these parts. We want more availability to these things so that we're not waiting 5-6 days for something to be repaired. Ken, Mark Brown, and myself have a meeting with the head of service for Schindler tomorrow morning, so I should have more of an update next month. But these are some of the questions that I'm going to ask him. We're not satisfied with the service of this because we have to wait. So what I can tell you is these batteries that have been replaced, we have some more on order so that we have spares. This brake switch that was replaced, I asked for 2 more. So now we have 2 extras, 1 for each elevator in case something were to go down again. But our main question to, his name is Dave, will be what other parts can we stock? What else can we get from you? What do you see that might go down quicker? What's the life expectancy of certain parts? How can we have a better, conversation moving forward with those kinds of things, and then talk to him about the turnaround service? So much feedback that I've received has been around the fear of both elevators going down. What would happen in that situation? I would prefer you to look at us as your partners in these kinds of scenarios, in these emergency scenarios where we would be here. We would be here to help facilitate those things. We would be able to bring services to your apartment. Yes, we could call the fire department, but they wouldn't be the end all. I would be here. I'm sure the majority of everybody sitting over there would also be here in those kinds of situations because that's what we're here to help with. And so I don't want anybody to feel alone and feel isolated, like, oh, if it goes down, I don't know what would happen. we would all be in here figuring that out, you know, and these types of things have started conversations of, all right, well, we need to plan for these things. What can we do now to plan for these things? And we have hurricane preparedness, we have power loss preparedness, all these different things that in case something happens, what are we gonna do about it? Who's gonna be here? What is each person doing? What is each department doing? So we think about those things. It's not something that we ignore. Obviously, the past situations in the past month, you know, have heightened those conversations for us, and that's what, you know, we're going to get better at. You know, a lot of people have said to me, you know, you say that you understand what's happening, but what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about what's going on with the elevators? And my answer to that is, we're meeting with the head of service. I had a conversation with the technician who was here the other day, who was also the technician that worked on the batteries. He and I also had a long conversation about them leaving more detailed notes for us as far as what they repaired, how they repaired it, you know, and also talk to him more about parts. And I mean, he's going to have more information as the technician, right, about what do you see in other facilities that goes down? What are the life expectancy of these things? He told us the life expectancy of those batteries were 4 to 5 years. Well, okay, great. Well, now next time, maybe 3.5 years from now, we just change the batteries out. Why would we wait for them to go bad? You know, that's the information that we need to make good decisions, and that's what we plan on doing. So with that, we also, I don't want to forget about the north building elevators as well. Many of you live in the north building. What are we doing about those elevators? Cars 3 and 4, which are the ones near the bistro, the week after Thanksgiving, and there will be a memo that goes out for this, the week after Thanksgiving, both of those elevators, not at the same time, but they will both be down for a day or two each to do preventative maintenance on them. There's some parts that are really old and worn that haven't gone yet, but they're on their way out, so we want to change them. We want to be proactive about it. And we're doing the same thing to the North Tower elevator sometime, I think, in early December. I don't have a specific date for that one yet. That also has some control board, I don't want to say issues because they're not issues, but something that, again, it's older, it's on its way out. We want to be proactive about it and get ahead of anything that would be detrimental to service. These are the kinds of things that we do. We plan on doing the same with the south building. We just need to have some better conversations and you know, see where we can go from there. What I will tell you, what I want to end with is, I've had a lot of comments about, you know, the south building elevators. They're down all the time. Why are they down all the time? I pulled a report of our service calls, you know, from basically January 1st until now, and many of the service calls we've had ended up being door issues, where the door gets jammed, gets knocked over, you know, somebody bumps into it, something like that, and these elevators lock themselves out for a safety feature. It's actually called earthquake mode. That's what the alarm code goes into, because the car is out of balance, basically. So this is something that we all can be better at helping. You know, the staff, our vendors, the residents, everybody can help minimize those, and I think that will help that get better. So I don't want anybody to think that, oh, you know, there's parts that are broken all the time, and the elevator's old, and all these different things. Many of these things are just somebody knocks into the door, and we physically cannot repair this ourselves. We have to have Schindler come. They have to get on top of the car, and they have to repair basically the control issue. That's the alarm. So just be mindful of how you're entering and exiting those doors. One thing that the technician also told me the other day was, and I know this is so natural because I do it myself, people stick their arms out for the doors if somebody's coming to hold the door open. He says it's actually much better for the doors if you push the button that holds the door open. He said sometimes by you doing that, the door kind of, you know, it slams back very quickly because the sensor on it is noticing an obstruction. If you hold that button, it's much more natural for the elevator. So those are those education pieces that we're trying to learn and we're trying to get better at, of what else can I pick these guys' brains about? What else can we do, and how can we talk about that? So keep that in mind, and as always, if you have any questions, please come and find me, or you can find Suzanne too. She's in the corner. And we're happy to help you. Do you have any questions? Okay. Yes. We'll get you a microphone. Hold on one second.
Just one minor comment on the buttons for the elevator. In my own case, I don't see that well. Can't you have a bigger button, a bigger sign saying close or open, something like that? That's so easy to do.
It's not that easy to do. We would have to
Well,
reconfigure pretty much the entire elevator.
No, not. There must be a way of putting a little note up there saying.
Sure. Well, sure. We could look into something like that. Sure.
That's all.
Sure. We could
Make
look
it
into
easy.
something like
A lot
that.
of us don't see that well. That's a real problem.
I understand.
Take your job.
Just confirming when you said you and everybody would be here, does that include Saturdays and Sundays?
Absolutely. I've been here at Saturday at 2 in the morning when the whole building had no heat.
Okay.
We would.
And will we get service calls on Saturday and Sunday?
Yeah, so
now?
I'll speak to that real quick, sure.
Okay.
So could we get service calls on Saturdays and Sundays? Yes, we could. We would just have to approve the overtime for Schindler. Those would be emergency phone calls. But we have 24/7 availability with both Thyssen, who was our company for the North Building, and Schindler, who is our company for the South. Yes, holidays, weekends, everything. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Dan. And thank you. Coming from someone who really understands the pressures of having to maintain systems and keep things working, it's not easy to carry the pressure of keeping those things up and concerns, valid concerns from our customers. So we appreciate it. And I, for one, believe you're doing everything in your power and every resource available to get this stuff fixed. So thanks again. So let's move to some programming. We'd love to hear what's going on in the community from Maria.
Hello, everyone. Good to see you all. It seems like we just did this, and we did. But that was 3 weeks ago from what Janet has said. So time just flies when we're having fun. I'm Maria Freda. I'm the Whitney Center Community Engagement Coordinator. And as always, Maria La Sala shares such inspiring words of wisdom. And with that in mind, in this season of gratitude and appreciation, it's beautiful to be able to provide Whitney Center with programs that encourage us to celebrate family, friends, enjoy each other's company, and to share new experiences. And that's why I'm here today, to do just one of the many things that Whitney Center does so well, and that is to offer you options and experiences that bring out the best in you. So kicking off the Thanksgiving holiday, I'm happy to say that Isabel Strover, the daughter of Whitney Center resident Phil Askanase and his dearly departed wife Marjorie, will be performing in the CAAC with her jazz quintet this Sunday at 4 p.m. A special thanks to all of you who have contributed to the Cultural Arts Fund, which has made Isabel's concert possible this weekend. Like the concerts and lectures, the movies, too, will bring people together this holiday season. The film committee continues to select its films week after week. However, Dr. Braverman, who unfortunately is not able to be here today, asked me to appeal for volunteers to help run them. Whether it's playing the DVD or streaming for a matinee in the evening, showings, it is learning something new and helps to keep the film committee a vital contributor to the community. So those films don't run themselves. So whatever we can to help them and members of the film committee, please do think about, it's only about 15 minutes to get a film running. So if you can do that, he gratefully would appreciate that. Excuse me, 5 minutes. Oh, that's right. That's right. Deb right here. She does it. So thank you, Deb. And to some of the others who are not actually members of the film committee who are actually doing that as well. But speaking of engaging events, on Thursday, December 7th, 4 residents are going to the Legacy Theater to see A Christmas Carol, a wonderful holiday tradition. On Friday morning, December 8th, there are 11 residents going to the New Britain Museum. And that afternoon, December 8th at 3:30, Steve Gurney will once again host Cabaret. This one is Cabaret 6. I can't believe he has been so busy doing all of that. So that's right here in the CAC. On December 12th, there's a trip to the Florence Griswold Museum to see the pallet trees and holiday mantles, and of course, to have a cup of Flo's tea. And I still have 2 seats available for that. It's wonderful. If you've never been, I highly recommend it. December 13th, the JCC is hosting its Hanukkah party here in the CAC. On December 14th, we'll have our Treasures Tour, which is a guided tour of the items displayed along Main Street. We have 12 residents will participate in that Whitney Center first-time event. Then that evening, there is a return performance from Whitney Center's favorite band, Over Easy, at 7:30 to perform at our holiday dance party. I'm so happy we now have our own dance floor, so we can turn it up anytime we like. And then, of course, December 15th, mark your calendars. I mean, not that you don't already have a lot of stuff to put on your calendar, but save the date for our fantastic staff and resident Main Street Winter Stroll. It's going to be filled with a few surprises, and again, something that's very different. So we're really excited about that. And I know behind the scenes, Felicia Green, Mark Brown, Kara Ronan, so many people are putting so much effort into making this a holiday event to remember. And then another holiday tradition will be on December 20th, and that's the performance of the Whitney Center Chorale. And topping off the end of all the celebrations will be our fabulous New Year's Eve party with Molly Ryan. So it's a season of happenings, as if I'd like to say. And just before we started the meeting, Maria LaSala and I are going to collaborate on a calendar that will feature all of her events as well as all of these wonderful engagement events. So we'll keep you busy. That's for sure. And speaking of dancing, this Monday at November 20th, it is optional, but you are invited to break in our new dance floor in the CAC from 11 to 12. It's something that we have to put together, housekeeping, and I and a few other people are going to try it all out. So if you want to help us break it in, you're more invited to come at 11 o'clock. So to new residents or to town meeting first-timers, I bet you never imagined that you'd be this busy or have this much fun. So get ready. So we're ready for you. And one last mention. Thank you to those who participated in the Yale School of Management Post-Retirement Life Experience Research Study yesterday. Faye and Mauricio were not only impressed with Whitney Center as a campus, but they were most impressed by all of you who participated and took some time to talk with them. They said your enthusiasm and eagerness to share your opinions, knowledge, and stories made it such an enjoyable task. They were also thrilled to see how tech savvy you all are. So that was great. So you all really do love K4 after all. School of Management plans to make a return visit and to share its results with us as it moves on to the next step of the study. So nicely done, everyone. So thank you. And does anyone have any questions? I think we're good. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Maria. You know, I kind of feel your excitement when you talk about these things, so thank you for just elevating us in this area. It's really cool. But I don't dance, so I can't come to that thing. Sean O'Connor, our Vice President of Marketing, would like to come up and say a few words.
I don't dance either, so. So we're pulling into the end of the year, and it is going to be a busy end of the year. So be prepared for more residents. Currently, we have 15 apartments that are available on the campus. 53% of them are one bedroom, 47% of them are two bedroom. And we have 13 in the north and 2 in the south. So inventory continues to be tight. There have been 12 releases so far this year. We have a couple more we're anticipating. But to put that in perspective, the last 3 years, we've averaged 25. So we're keeping an eye on that. We're building a waiting list. Dawn and Colleen, maybe they're here. No, they're probably on tours. They have been building the wait list, which is fantastic because the wait list had gotten very, very low. And we were kind of living off our wait list instead of living off of new leads. And so now that we're building that wait list up again, that's going to be beneficial for the community when new inventory comes into stock. There are currently 8 apartments which are reserved. 5 people are approved. 3 are going through the process. On the 6th floor, we have 4 out of the 7 which are reserved. So we anticipate the 3 remaining up there, those will sell. I'm going to go out on a limb. Don't tell Jeff. The first half of the year, we'll get those reserved. We've had 5 new residents since our last town hall. We're anticipating another 5 moves in the month of December. That's why I said be ready. Our occupancy and reserve number remains at 93%, which is fantastic. To date, we've moved 28 residents in. 15 have moved into the north building and 13 have moved into the south building. So pretty even mix. Thrive at Home hasn't had any new members join since our last meeting. There are a couple of applications in process. We've had 18 members join this year. There are currently 95 active members. And Meadow Mills is currently at 57 out of 60 with another move coming up. So they'll shortly be at 58 out of 60. So it's looking like it's going to be a good end of the year. And I won't spoil things, but in January we have some folks who are going to be ready to move in as well. So it continues to go well. Are there any questions folks have? All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. Lynn Astry, Dining Services Supervisor. And Mike, would you like to come up too? Sure. Great. Thank you.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm Lynn Nastry, Dining Services Manager. This morning, I'm just going to talk about a couple things. First off, I wanted to let you know that we started up the comment card feedback again. So far, we've had about 2 weeks into it. We've generated approximately 10 comments to date. We are looking at them, tracking the trends. We have made some adjustments to some of the comments that we've received already. We do encourage you guys to fill them out. They are available through K4, and they are also available at the north and south building. There was a suggestion of having the comment cards available in venues. They are available upon request in the venues because we want to encourage the K4 app use. We are working with the dining committee and Ms. Crystal to continue to evaluate whether or not the cards need to be accessible at the dining tables in center stage, and we'll keep you posted on that. Herb Kolodny has offered classes to people who are not familiar with the K4 app or need a little refresher course. And then changing over to Thanksgiving, we still have Thanksgiving reservations available. We have 3 seatings. We have a 12, a 1, and a 2 p.m. seating. There's 35 slots available for each one of those seatings, so if you'd like to make reservations, please feel free. Menu should be up on K4 this afternoon. And the last thing I was going to talk about was staff training. We continue to train the staff in all venues. The focus throughout the remainder of the year will be to ensure positive customer experience, building their confidence and continue to develop their skills as servers. We will continue to make them aware of changes to the menus as necessary and to become more familiar with selections offered, going over the menus more in depth so they're more familiar with what is being offered in the venues. That is all I have for today. If anybody has any questions or.
In BC, before COVID, the situation in the center stage was that it was filled almost every night, and we had staff to take care of that, but barely. And we didn't have to make, it says, intensive reservations. Could we talk about planning towards how things were in BC?
Well, right now, we are keeping the reservation intact definitely for the 5:45 seating. We are loosening up the 5 PM and the 6:30. So, we have loosened that up quite a bit. Numbers are starting to increase in center stage for reservations. So we're just kind of keeping an eye on the 5 and 6:30, but that is pretty flexible. It's the 5:45 that really needs to keep with the reservations, but we have opened that up. We are taking up to as many, I think last night, or maybe not last night, the other night, we had up to 40 at the 5:45, so we are increasing that.
But I'm talking about having a full house the way we used to, using all the tables during dinner.
If need be, we can open that up. Right now, there isn't a need for it.
Really?
Yes.
How do you know that?
Just from my numbers, normally before COVID, we were doing probably anywhere from 90 to 105 for dinner service. The numbers are anywhere from 40 to 65 now.
But still, if you ask for 5:45, they'll say we're full. According to what you're saying now, there shouldn't be a full.
I don't believe that's what Lynn's saying, Mr. Askinese. What she's saying is currently having a flood of more than that at 5:45 would not be sustainable, but we are working towards being more flexible with the other hours, but things still need to be displaced well enough to have a functional service. If we were to accept 80 people at 5:45, it would become an issue of wait time.
Yeah, I get that. But it would be nice at the other time points to just say it's wide open, which is, I guess, what you just said.
We're becoming more flexible with the 5 and the 6:30, correct?
That's terrific.
I think that one of the things that we might be forgetting in all of this is now the pub is open with the buffet, and a lot
Correct.
more people are probably going to the buffet versus going to center stage.
That is
which is
correct.
probably why you're seeing more lower numbers.
Absolutely.
I heard that we were going to, in the bistro, come up with the same hamburgers that you have in the center stage. But that hasn't happened so far.
Our apologies for that. We are expecting to have that in the very near future. Last time we had town meeting, I did say tentatively because I did not have an exact date yet, and it is, my shortcoming for not getting that information out. But I do plan to have a K4 posting with some information as to the exact date when we are going to start that. It will be before the end of the year, I expect in early December.
Okay, thank you.
Not a problem.
I had a hamburger last night, a cheeseburger with 2 slices of cheese.
Did you?
So, I don't know.
Anyone else?
Any other questions? Okay, thank
Okay.
you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lynn, Mike. So I'm curious, so you guys implemented a mechanism to get feedback via K4 and paper versions about a week now, 2 weeks? 2 weeks that's been out, and are you seeing data come in? Are people providing feedback, or? I'll repeat that. Mostly K4, okay. So good, so get your feedback in, whether it's good, bad, we love it all. Feedback is feedback. Thank you. Barbara Pinto, our housekeeping supervisor, would like to provide an update.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Barbara, housekeeper supervisor. I have some stuff to communicate with you guys. Sorry. So, you hear me sometimes, I call you early in the morning, or Yolanda call you to notify we're gonna have a new housekeeping, give you the services to you. Right now, we have 3 people on medical leave, and we have some people who's no longer with us. So for that reason, we have to bring the company performance to make sure we have housekeepers to give you the services every week to all of you. So sometimes you see my people from housekeeping, some of them they're here at 7 or 6:40 in the morning to help with the common areas because we have one building takeout. So they help with the common areas and then they help with the others' apartments to prevent cancel the services to any person here. We're working so hard to make sure we get the services to you every week. So if you receive my call, I'm sorry, I know it's early in the morning sometimes when I call you, forgive me for that, but it's for that reason. I wanna make sure everyone have the services. I don't wanna cancel, I do everything in my power to don't cancel the services for no one in the building. So right now we have 2 housekeepers for performance. It's the company who worked with us before. I have a conversation with the people for performance and I ask them if they can send me the same people who worked with us before. Because that person, those person work with us. They know most part of our residents. They know how we work here in Whitney Center at the quality of services we're looking for. So we have Magda back here. Most of the residents know Magda. And we have Juliana. Juliana don't work with us before, but she's doing really good and she tried to give the best services we can provide to you. We are working to hire people right now. We have one person we hire already for the health center, and we have another person in the process for a new hire. So we don't have a date yet for those team members that are out on medical leave. We don't have a date yet, but as soon as I have the date, I'm gonna let you know, guys, when your housekeeper gonna be back, okay? So I know you miss a lot your housekeeper, but immediately I have a date, I'm gonna let you know, hey, your housekeeper's gonna be here next week, and you're gonna be happy, and everybody's gonna be happy. Okay? So, sometimes we have in the in the hallways, you see sometimes different housekeepers as well. You don't see Randy as much because Randy's helped me with another stuff. So you're gonna see the housekeepers too vacuum the hallways and stuff like that. It's for that reason Randy's still here. It's just he go in and out and he work in different places as well. So please, if you have any questions.
This morning, I had 2 housekeepers. They were working in tandem, and it worked out very well. It was Magda and Madeline, I think. And I was wondering if that might be something that would facilitate the housekeeping situation.
No, what happened is Magda have a medical appointment and Madeline go to help. They help each other, and that way we can finish all the apartments and we don't skip nobody. That's the reason.
Right, but I was thinking maybe that would be a good way to do it.
Let's see. Let me think about it. Thank you. Okay, have a good day, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Barbara. You know, your areas are just so fluid. There's like tons of moving parts. And just thank you for really just pivoting and doing what you got to do to keep things going. Appreciate it. So Ken, Vice President of Lifestyle Services, has some comments.
Thank you, Raphael. Hello, residents. Good morning, residents. And Raphael, I'm loving your commentary after each speaker, so I'm wondering, like, hey, what's he going to say after I speak? So I just have actually one topic I want to talk about. It's something that most everybody loves is pets. Dogs. We have a lot of dogs in this community, and people love our pets. They love our dogs. They're friendly. People circle around them. Those that are pet owners understand the value of walking around, and you get exercise. So there was a couple of weeks ago, though, I did put a memo out about our leash policy. And it's actually more than just Whitney Center's leash policy. It's actually a policy, a Connecticut state policy, that when your dog is outside of your home and not in a dog park, that it should be leashed. And we do understand that some dog owners have really good control of their pets, but irregardless, it has to be leashed at all times. And I mentioned this at resident council, so I'm mentioning this again. When we say your dog has to be on a leash, it also means your hand has to be on the other side. So we don't want to forget that either. So, and again, I mentioned this because a couple of weeks ago we did have an incident in the community that a dog was unleashed, and it did attack another dog, and actually a resident as well. So that's why this is really critically important, that when you do have a dog, that you do leash it and you do hold on to the leash unless you're in the dog park. So a couple of residents came up to me afterwards and said, okay, that's all well and good, but what happens if people don't abide by that policy? Well, ultimately, as you know, most of you know me, I'm always going to work with the resident, but ultimately, everybody has signed a contract, and part of that contract is for your safety and the safety of all others. And if that is broken, then we certainly have the right to break the contract, or you've broken the contract. So that's an extreme case, but I say that because residents are asking me that question. What happens if somebody's not listening to you, Ken, or listening to the community, or following our policies? So we do have that in the contract, and so that's the message I just want to get to everybody. This is really, really important for your safety and the safety of our community. So that's my message, and I'm sticking to it. And I'm just really happy that we are dog friendly. Many of you may or may not know that I own a dog. I'm a huge dog lover. And now that my mother lives here, she actually dog watches for me. So some of you have probably seen my dog in the community. So anyhow, so that's all I have. If there are any questions, I'll be certainly happy to take them. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Ken. Up next, Ken knows I love him. I do. Ken and I formed a really great partnership here over the last few years, and we give each other a hard time. But Michelle Pandolfi, our Vice President of Enrichment Services, has an update.
Good morning, everyone. I am here just to give a little bit of update about a project that we worked on earlier this year. I was affectionately calling it the Death Binder, but we had introduced it during the LEAP series that we did back in May. So we created a binder, and this binder was specific for residents of Whitney Center and members of Thrive at Home, where you could really map out your entire life, gather all your information, make sure that it's all there. So in the event of a disability or of your death, the people that you've entrusted to take care of your affairs would have all that information contained in that one binder. And so those were on sale at cost back in the spring. So Mrs. Greenbaum actually said, well, hey, we should be buying this for our kids too, because they have families that they need to take care of and make sure that they organize their lives for. And so we took that information, we've created another binder that now is not just specific to Whitney Center and Thrive at Home members, but for all ages. And so we're going to be putting that up for sale as well, again, at cost. The cost of it is really just the binder, the materials that go inside, and the cost of the color copies that are in there. So it's just in time for holiday shopping. Just wanted to put it out there. All the information will go up on K4. There will be an order form. So let us, and we'll ask you if you're going to purchase this for Hanukkah, if you're purchasing it for Christmas. So this way we can get it to you on time for those holidays as well. All right, any questions? All right, make sure you get those credit cards out. Bye. Okay.
Thanks, Michelle. From time to time, I tell you, we run into a tough spot. When a resident passes and the partner or spouse asks IT to try to get into a computer or they can't access an account, we really can't help. It's hard. So just documenting that information really goes a long way and really helping your family and your spouse get to the data that they need access. So buy it. How much is it?
There's a different cost for entry.
All right, different costs, but definitely buy it. So Natalie Murray, our supervisor of assisted living, is going to provide an update for health services.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Natalie Murray. I'm the supervisor of assisted living services, covering Whitney Center and Meadow Mills. I'm just going to go through some updates regarding our COVID clinics. We recently had 3 clinics. The first one was conducted at Meadow Mills. The second one for the independent living and the assisted living residents last week in the CAC, and those went very well. The third one was for the health center. And we'll be reaching out to any residents who have missed any of those clinics. And we don't have an actual clinics plan, but we will discuss the options for those who have missed vaccinations. The RSV vaccine, some people had been asking about that. We are encouraging residents to go to their local pharmacies to receive the vaccine. We also recently had our 1-year celebration at Meadow Mills. We did acquire them on October 31st last year. And we did have a recognition ceremony for the team members who have been with us since our acquisition over at the Meadow Mills community. The event was well received. We had planned visits from our Hamden Mayor, Lauren Garrett, Senator Martin Looney, and the State Representative Mike D'Astino. Several of our residents from our Whitney Center campus did also come over. They were from the Governing Affairs Committee. They came over to the main campus, and we made lots of great connections. Any questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Natalie. So I'd like to ask Jeff Devaney, our VP of Finance, and Mike Rambros, our President and CEO, to provide an update.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm Jeff Devaney, Vice President of Finance, for those of you who don't know me. I just want to give a quick update. As of the end of September, we did $21 million in revenue. We're actually $1,075,000 over budget, which is mostly what Sean was saying. We're at 93% occupancy, so our independent living apartment revenue is up, and our personal options revenue has grown through the year. Our expenses were also 21 million or 21.6 million. A lot of that is additional personal options people to support that revenue. So for the year, we have a loss of 530,000 at the end of September, but that's 733,000 better than what we budgeted. So we're doing better than our budget, but we still have a ways to go to work to break even or making a profit, but we're doing well. On the entry fees, as Sean was talking about, we're actually on budget for this year. That's a pretty quick update on year to date. Anybody have any questions or? No? Okay, thank you.
All right, don't clap yet. I heard Roz say as I was walking by her, here comes the news. Okay, so Mike Rambros, thanks, Jeff. I wanted to just give a quick overview. So we are doing better. We're doing better financially in our profit and loss on an operational basis and on our entry fees. So this morning, the Board of Directors met and approved the budget for 2024. Jeff is going to lead a more in-depth discussion. We're going to try to schedule something like we've done in years past to really walk through the components of the budget. But I want to give you the highlights. Here's the news, Roz, you ready? We are implementing a 5% rate increase again this year. So yeah, it's uncomfortable. Believe me, it's uncomfortable standing here telling you that. So here's some context. For pretty much as long as I've been here, I've been here 18 years, I would say for probably 14 to 15 of those years, except for last year, we have implemented a 3% rate increase consistently. And we did that. Our thinking was, it's good for planning. It's consistent. It kind of averages out. If we look at things like CPI, if we look at the healthcare cost increases, it seemed to average out, and we seemed to do okay, and it helped with planning. In doing some analysis of that, what happened, and it's normal. What happens is maintaining that level of rate increase each year compared to our expenses has created a gap. Our ability to cover expenses as they've averaged more than 3% each year has become impaired, right? And so last year we saw that, and one of the factors behind that is the cost of labor. Okay, the labor market being what it is, especially with regard to healthcare, and the shortage of nurses is really the sort of the catalyst, but we're seeing it in RNs, LPNs, and CNAs, right? It's driving the cost of labor, not only for hiring folks, but also any contract labor that might come in. And it's expanding. Those cost pressures are expanding to hospitality workers. So when we have to use contractors to come in and supplement services, as Barbara described, for housekeeping, because we have people on medical leave or we have vacancies, our costs continue to escalate. And so it was a hard decision, but we did make the decision through the Finance Committee and the board to go with a 5% rate increase this year. Our hope is, and we're seeing the performance. So Jeff talked about, increasing our financial or improving our financial performance. And in the budget for next year, we are actually projecting a break-even budget, a balanced budget. That hasn't happened in the 18 years that I've been here. And so that's a milestone, and we're getting to where we need to be. And my hope is we can start to control costs and get back to a more palatable rate increase. So I know it's difficult to absorb. I get that. I want you to know that we've taken great care in making that decision. Now, within that break-even budget that we're projecting for next year, we have about, in addition to our regular sort of wage increase on the expense side for our employees, we typically have done a 2% wage increase each year. And again, we've done that consistently, but it hasn't kept up with the market. In some cases, we've been able to correct along the way, and in some cases, we haven't. So every year we do a wage analysis, and we look at other organizations. We start with organizations like Whitney Center, and then we go out from there, standalone nursing homes, standalone assisted livings. Then we look at healthcare in general. We sort of keep Yale, New Haven, and Hartford Health out of the mix because those are outliers, and we can't compete with them when it comes to wages. But we are expanding our view for that wage analysis, and including the general, all economic sectors. We're looking at what Amazon is paying, we're looking at what McDonald's is paying, we're looking at across the board because these are our competitors for labor, right? So in doing that analysis, we discovered that that there were 2, 3, 4 classes or groups of employees that were well underpaid. There was a big gap between what we pay here and what the market in general is paying. So cooks, wait staff, CNAs in the health center, CNAs in Meadow Mills. The cooks and the wait staff were there was a 10% gap, right, between what we pay here and what the market pays. The CNAs, there was about a 6% gap. What we've been able to do in the budget is plug in those adjustments so that your rate increase is directly tied to our ability to cover those adjustments. And so we're able to, it amounts to about $280,000 of adjustment to salaries beyond our regular 2% increase that we're able to plug in and correct going into next year. Now, all of this depends on our performance, right? If we want to hit our targets, occupancy, expense management, so that we can implement these things in the way we're hoping to. So our management team has to decide if we're going to implement those adjustments on January 1, or if they're going to be at some point later in the year, depending on how we're doing, to sort of test whether our assumptions are valid and sort of prove out that we can actually afford to do that. So that's our approach, but those are essentially the highlights that Jeff will lead a more in-depth discussion next month. The other thing, so any questions on that? Just know that there'll be plenty of time to ask those questions during that review, that budget review meeting. But any general questions about the budget process, anything like that? Yes. She's coming.
I assume what you're describing is the operational budget. Do you have I assume you have a separate capital budget?
We do.
Could you
do.
comment
Yes, sir.
about that?
Yeah.
And what's
yeah.
covered in that?
Great question. So every year, we budget about $3 million for capital expenses. Capital expenses include, so this is outside the operating budget, right? So capital expenses include, the primary driver of that is the cost of refurbishment to the apartments so that we can resell them. That ranges anywhere from $1.75 million to $2.25 million. And then there are other infrastructure projects that we've done over the course of the last number of years to fix things like elevator systems, plumbing, plumbing infrastructure, electrical infrastructure was a huge investment, which we actually took dollars out of our bond financing, our refinancing in 2019 to fund those big infrastructure projects. And those are things you typically don't see, but if those things aren't working, we all feel it and hear it. So that is our typical approach. So that is sort of, those types of projects have comprised our $3 million allocation to capital expense in years past. The thing that we haven't been able to do because of our balance sheet being pretty thin, right, coming out of 2011 when we opened the South Building, right? We had spent down quite a bit of our reserves to the point of having less than $2 million in reserves in 2015. And that was a nervous time for the board, right? But we stayed the course and we continued to build. And right now we have about $18 million in reserves. And that's with our ability to pay a $2.5 million property tax bill every year, along with other periodic costs like that. So now that we're building, I'd like to see us around 21 million, frankly, as a comfort level. But we are engaging with our finance committee to talk about our investment strategy. You see, we've invested those dollars relatively conservatively, right, to build, to make sure that we're building that reserve. But we're at a point now where we can stratify a little bit more and be a little bit more aggressive with a portion of those reserve investments so that we can generate the excess capital to do some projects that we've been deferring. So that's a long way around of saying we need to fund our asset reinvestment. That is, the north building is 45 years old, right? It looks 45 years old. In some areas, it feels 45 years old. And so we need to reinvest in that. And so in addition to the $3 million, there's a whole need for cash, probably in somewhere around, I'm going to guess, $8 to $10 million worth of projects that we could do, that we should be doing, if we had the dollars today. So things like the facade of the north building, right? That the building envelope itself, we've got to repoint all the brick, right? It absorbs water into the cavity, and it compromises the material condition of the structure. Things like that. The curb appeal, the continued marketability. We don't have a problem now, right? Because as Sean just said, we're right around 93%. That's good news. But that's not, we can't expect that to continue. We can't keep our fingers crossed and hope that people kind of, look at the south building and the nice landscaping and kind of, ignore the facade of the north building, that sort of thing. So the cosmetic work, the asset reinvestment is not funded on a regular basis, but it's something that the Finance Committee is working to do that. It's a long answer. Does that help? Cool. Thank you. Yes, Joe. John's coming with the mic.
How has the moving of the memory unit to Meadow Mills and the bringing in of 6 new apartments on the 6th floor, 6 or 7, whatever it is, 6, how is that going to affect the profit and loss statement?
Okay. Well, I'll let Jeff answer the P&L question. I'll just say that the movement of the acquisition of Meadow Mills, from a quality standpoint, has put us light years ahead of where we were in terms of being able to provide services for people with cognitive and brain change. And that is, first and foremost, that was our goal. Financially, it does have an impact because, as you said, it allowed us to create new apartments, put apartments back into inventory on the 6th floor, which is kind of prime real estate. Jeff, you want to talk about that impact?
Sure. When we did the bonds for the Meadow Mills acquisition last year, we did a feasibility study of the purchase of Meadow Mills. It was a 5-year feasibility study. And right now, I would say we're probably a little bit ahead. We're doing a little better. But the way it works is you have the Meadow Mills P&L, income and cost, and that's break even to positive. And then you have the other 7 apartments coming online on the 6th floor. When you combine the cash flow from them and the Meadow Mills, we were about at break even or a little better. We're actually running a little bit better right now. So it's been a good acquisition for us financially. That contributes to it some. Some of it is, a lot of it is the 93% occupancy. A lot of it is that, and the growth of personal options has helped too. Those are major contributors.
Yeah, when we did the feasibility analysis for Meadow Mills and we talked about it as a finance committee, as a board, we understood that it was not going to have a material effect on our operational profit and loss. However, the accretive value of occupancy and optimizing pricing has that effect. And that's why we're able, and managing expenses has that effect of that break even.
The residents at Meadow Mills, how many are full payers, and are there some who are subsidized by the government?
You take that?
The majority of them are full payers. There's 4, I think, 3 or 4 right now that are partially subsidized by the government, and then the families would pay the remainder. So 4.
Yeah, just to be clear though, and correct me if I'm wrong, they're subsidized to the full rate.
Yeah.
right? We're not locked in to keep a lower than market rate. So the way it works for those that are subsidized is that the government, if they qualify, will pay a portion of the full rate and the family picks up the rest to market rate. So we as a business concern aren't realizing a loss, a lower than cost revenue accrual. The other element is that residents who are Whitney Center contract holders and go over there, they do pay a different rate as well. Okay, just like, sort of the health center, there's some of that that's included in the contract, depending on the contract type. Yeah, Deanie?
Thanks. Have you figured out what you're going to do with the dining area and the kitchen area on the 6th floor? It's very attractive.
Yeah, well, yeah, so thank you for that. So Maria Freda has been leading up a discussion about how we can creatively use the common space. She's working with me, and we've been working with architects. We actually interviewed 78 of you gave us your input on the use, the potential use, functionality of that 6th floor space, including that dining area and, the whole area between the 2 double elevator banks. And that kind of, spawned a discussion about common space everywhere on campus. Because we know these things don't exist in a vacuum, right? So we have to look at the interdependency of all of these different spaces. And so it's been a really good discussion. We're waiting on the architect to come back, having sort of sifted through all the feedback through those 78 interviews and sort of the goals and objectives we've had in mind. They're going to come back with a preliminary sort of schematic or conceptual drawing to see, what we come up with. There'll be 2 or 3 iterations of that. Then we'll come back to residents to say, this is what we come up with. What do you think? But it has to be done in context with all the other, contemplating all the other common spaces. And which is tied to the health center, right? We've downsized the 30 beds. We are still waiting for the state Department of Social Services to give us approval to downsize those beds. We had to go through what's called a certificate of need application process, which we did. We met their deadline. They get 90 days to respond. We're in day 61. So by December 15th, we expect that response. I don't see why they would decline our request to downsize. But once that happens formally, we have a little less than a third of the health center available to us. That is common space we have to think about from a business modeling perspective as well as common space utilization. So that'll go into the hopper as well. Stay tuned. Okay. I just have one last thing, Raf. I just want to thank everyone for their well wishes. Some of you know that I just, I didn't do anything. My daughter-in-law gave birth to my first grandchild. And so that's just a point of privilege I wanted to take. Just to thank you for your well wishes. I want to thank the Knit and Stitch committee that created a beautiful hat and blanket. She has to grow into it. Once she does, I'll take a picture and bring it back and share it as a thank you. But I appreciate all your well wishes. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Thanks, Mike, Jeff. I was going to brag that when IT facilitates this meeting, I was going to let you go a half hour early, but then Mike came up. So next month, Jeff Devaney is going to host, so that meeting will probably only last an hour. But he'll be your host next week, so thank you for letting me be your host today. Thank you for coming, and thanks to all the teams who provided an update. Happy Thanksgiving.